Yes, sir. The men's roundtable series is back and better than ever. I'm your host, Mr. U. The guys are in the house. We got Brent, D. Savage, Nate is in the house, Scott Mater. We're here, man. So we're ready to rock and roll. Thank you guys for watching and listening. If you are any husband, father, brother, and son that's out there that knows these guys or knows me or knows of the show, thanks for making us part of your day and part of your week. We definitely appreciate it. All right, so we've been rolling on some really fun topics over the past several weeks or so. Any thoughts, revelations, insights, maybe new wisdoms you got recently since the last show? What are you guys thinking in regards to that? Jump in real quick. Be as brief as you can. Go ahead.
I might be an AI bot right now. That's all my life has been for the last week. So it may not be real.
I'm resisting the AI world, but I've had some terrific conversations with some other gentlemen on my own podcast that have been really interesting discussions about heaven and hell and kind of a long-term view, of eternity and how when you look through that lens, you live your life differently. And it's a really, really good guess.
Oh, I love it, man. Thanks for sharing that, brother. Anybody else?
Go ahead, Brent.
I don't know. I've been so grindstone this week. Like business has been crazy. So I've not had much of a thought about anything. I barely knew today was honestly.
That's fair. I think me and Brent are in the same boat on that one. I don't think I've had any deep, meaningful conversation with another man since the last time we were here last Thursday. You the only man that had meaningful combos with, so
I've been taking care of my wife this week. She's been a little under the weather, so I've been playing nurse. You know how that goes. So, and of course she feels terrible for it because she's like, I need to take care of you. I'm like, you're the one not feeling well. Let me take care of you. It's okay.
Just go ahead and give her the championship. She ain't got to compete. Just give her the championship, right? She deserves it. But
she wants to take care of everybody else, but she doesn't like it when people take care of her. I don't know anyone else like that.
Wow.
Right, Brent? Nobody else like that around here. Nobody around here like that.
Let's face it, man. We're all big babies when we're sick as men.
Well.
Yeah, but that didn't mean I like people taking care of me.
But I ain't putting that one on myself. I can't do that. But I will say that I kind of just, I ain't gonna say I'm nice to live with, but I'm just like, I'm shelling myself. I don't say much. I'm in a corner somewhere. It's real dark around me, man. I'm not feeling good. All the whining and complaining stuff, I don't do that. My wife is a big fan of this show. She can chime in the comment section and tell you that. I don't do all that stuff. But I'm dark, moody, in a corner somewhere, in a blanket. Leave me alone. Don't text me. Don't email me. Don't talk to me. No, that's kind of, when I'm not feeling good, that's kind of where I'm at. But all the,
you're just setting it up for our isolation topic. Yeah.
Yeah. There's always, every week is an isolation topic. We can't even avoid that. All right. Get some folks trying to get in. You guys can find your way to the YouTube chat to jump in. Please do. If you have any questions, you can reach out to one of us and we'll help you out with finding your way. I helped one person out just now. All right, so we're talking about the loneliness that men don't know how to explain. We touched on it a couple of weeks ago, and I just knew there was some meat on that bone, and I wanted to get into it. What would you say, just to kind of get our juices flowing, what would you say is the time where you were the loneliest in your life? And you guys that are in the chat or that's watching us today, jump in the comment section, drop your answers in there. Try not to drop in 3 paragraphs. It's hard for us to read that. So kind of keep as brief as possible. When were you the loneliest in your entire life? What was that like? What was happening there? Go ahead, guys. Jump in.
The loneliest, I would have to say when I was basically issued rather surprisingly divorce papers. And I was extremely upset. I had 2 young children. They were just like 5 and 7, and it was a complete ambush. I was not expecting it at all. There was no No pre-indicators in my view, and then I was so furious. I was thinking bad things and had to get an apartment, and she'd frozen all of our assets, so I had no money. You know, when you get those temporary orders until the whole thing goes through, and so I had no furniture. Fortunately, I was a backpacker. I had like a sleeping bag and a little Thermarest mattress that I was sleeping on in my apartment, and I was pacing in that apartment like a caged tiger, planning my revenge. And I got down, I prayed, I think as hard as Jesus in the garden, where I was sweating drops of blood just to take that anger away from me. And he did. He answered that prayer for me.
That's how superhero villains are made, man.
It was bad, man. So
goodness gracious. Sorry to hear that, brother, but I'm glad you're here and you worked through it. Anybody else want to jump in? What you got, guys? Don't be scared.
Yeah, I don't remember a specific event that way. I just remember having a mindset around that, probably my late teens, early 20s. Just being angry with everything in life, blaming everybody in life, not accepting responsibility for myself, not realizing it at the time. And just you try, you put effort into things, and nothing works out. But that like Carl Jung thing that you just posted, it was interesting because I was very lonely at the time. I had a lot of friends, but I wasn't connected with anybody at all. But it wasn't really because of a traumatic event. That was just life for the longest time, right? So until I snapped out of it.
I really thought that quote, it said so much to me. Maybe it touched you the same way. But the quote is on the screen for you guys that are listening but not watching us. And the quote is by Carl Jung. It says, "Loneliness is not the absence of company, but the absence of connection." I feel like as men, we master the whole having company. We do it so well. The Super Bowl parties, even when the World Cup came around, these guys are getting together, surrounded by company. Barely watch soccer. But every 4 years they get together, have these massive parties, and you name the sport, it is a party associated with it. You know, we can do that. Get together, they even have mixers. I don't drink, but I know they go on. You know, I heard about the Catalina wine mix, and maybe you have too. But we know how to get together and have company. But we can be in a room. I mean, some of you guys that are panelists on this show, you can relate specifically. We either in rooms together in business circles, or we know of some of those situations where we in a room full of people, name tags, sitting there talking, connecting, passing business cards, and we haven't really connected for the entire event. We're just in the room. We can't remember, 3 folks' names that we met or something significant about them. It takes an exercise in networking to be intentional to remember somebody's name in the room and what's significant about their life.
Not networking?
Huh?
That's not networking? I thought that's how that worked.
It is, and we're so good at it, but it's not really the kind of connection that I think gets us over the loneliness hump. But some of you guys didn't get a chance to answer, so I want to give you an opportunity to do that. If you have an answer, if not, we can keep on moving. But when were you the loneliest in your life?
I've talked before in the roundtable about going through the period where because of financial things and things, I was suicidal. My wife and I weren't talking and communicating. We were heading towards divorce. In our case, we didn't end up getting divorced, and we're still together. But that's the same wife I was taking care of this week. So there you go. But that was probably the time, as an adult at least, that I could remember feeling the loneliness, the loneliest, because I had work and I had, quote, friends and my wife, but none of them knew what was going on. No, I wasn't talking to anybody. I wasn't really connected to anyone. I was just going through the motions.
All right. Anybody else?
Well, I've talked about, we've covered a lot of things in the last year, but I've shared before that I've been through attempted suicide, and I just remember one point in particular, like my world had gone so far south, like I generally actually hurt myself just to feel something physical.
Jeez.
because the emotional and mental anguish was so bad. My world was so upside down. I was so filled with rage and hatred and anger, and like everything had just gone so south that I actually injured myself pretty severely just to prove that I was still alive, that I could feel something. And the night I went out to kill myself, I was just out in the woods by myself, me and a bottle of tequila. That's how it was going to go, unless God decided to intervene, and God did. That's the only reason I lived through it. But I went out there popping pills and drinking tequila, and I said, all right, God, here I am. Do what we want with me, because I'm done. And I felt so alone. Like everything else, the whole world was so far away. I knew there were the people that loved me. I knew there were people who cared about me. But I was so consumed with self-loathing and rage and everything else that I couldn't hear anything else at that point. I was just so done. I felt really alone.
Sure, brother. I want to direct this to everyone. This is not to you, BD. I just wanted to piggyback on something you said, but it's for everybody, those that are listening as well. I tell a story, and I'll keep it real brief this time, about one of the primary reasons why we started, why I felt compelled. We'll just call it an epiphany without getting too deep about it. There was basically this mission, if you will, started because of a man on a bridge. And, I said it, I think it was week before or last week, that I'm still kind of blown away that in that moment, while this man is standing on a bridge with heavy traffic, probably the heaviest traffic in the city underneath his feet, that he couldn't think of one redeeming relationship. I find it hard to understand. I'm not trying to be callous, I just didn't understand it. One person that could potentially be a reason to not take the leap, and BD is saying that, that he, had such anguish and so much rage and things going on, even though he knew there were people who would miss him. There were people who would perhaps be a listening ear for him in that moment. Maybe they could understand, at least to some degree, enough to just be there, just to care, be present, and the other stuff still was so strong and so overwhelming that it almost negated that. I find that fascinating and scary and intense from your guy's perspective, because we're talking about loneliness. I mean, the guy didn't jump in one of the cases, but so many guys have, and it's like, can any of you guys make sense of how those things that are redeeming, those things that are good, don't outweigh everything else? I didn't tell a story about me and a bottle of pills because I'm wondering this will be the episode that my mom's actually going to watch. So I try to avoid telling the story, but that was my my dark, I'm going to do myself in moment. I had a big record deal in front of me, and things didn't go quite well. And I got in my feelings and got real emotional, rage, all the things that BD was talking about. And the only reason why I didn't take the pills was because I said my little sister would be damaged beyond compare if her protector was no longer here with her anymore, especially living where we lived. And that's the reason why I didn't do anything. The only reason why, nothing else. It was just that. So all that being said, I know I laid a heavy burden on you guys, and I apologize in advance. But what do you guys, can you guys make sense of what BD was talking about, and just where that all those other feelings override the ones that are the redeeming ones? Did that make sense? Can you help us a little bit? Any thoughts?
Well, I can say my first thought that comes to mind, and my first thought that comes from my own experience, not necessarily weighing on anybody else's, but I truly think men need purpose. We need reason. Like you're talking about your story, you're like, you had a purpose there to keep you from doing it. I know I had a purpose to just not hurt one person. It was like that lowest point of life. But when you have that, just a purpose, And unfortunately, I do really think we live in a world today that is telling a lot of young men that their purpose is wrong. It's not even that you don't have a purpose, it's that your purpose is wrong. You're no longer a protector. You no longer are supposed to take care of your wife when she's sick. They're just supposed to get over it. We talk about emotional sharing, and it's funny because
Yeah.
a lot of women are like, well, no, men should be able to share. And I remember one time sharing my feelings, and all they did was make fun of it because they weren't used to it. And it was like, well, actually, that was actually a legitimate feeling. I want to let you know. And as a guy, it teaches us that. But what really pulled me out of it is having purpose, like this pent up aggression as young boys. That is amazing leadership when it's focused properly. But instead, right from a very young age, they're told that your aggression is wrong. Essentially, they're told be more like women, like no aggression, no playing around, no this, no that. And then they grow up, and what the heck are you supposed to do? You've just been told you're wrong your whole life, and any instinct you have to go take care of your wife or go take care of your partner is now being blown. Like, what was it last week? We were talking about chivalry, and it's like that's blown out the window. You can't even open a door open for a woman, and it's just like, well, what do we do? Where is our purpose?
It's an interesting.
I think that having ceremonies in our life that we can call back upon, and so like in the Jewish community, they have the bar mitzvahs, and I had a guest on. There's a new effort underway called the Ion Path, and they're having like these Christian ceremonies of passing from childhood to adulthood through fatherhood, where their father kind of ushers them. And if you get like that father's blessing at some point in your life where he just looks at you and puts his hands on your shoulders and says, son, I love you because, I'm proud of you because I think you have what it takes to be a man, because I saw that happen at this retreat that I took my sons to called Christ and the Tetons. And there were like 40 people in the room, 20 fathers and sons, and some had been estranged, for a very long time. And you just saw people literally inflated, before your eyes because they were affirmed. And if that even happens once in your life, you can call upon that and go, hey, I have worth, at least to another person. All of us have worth as image bearers of God. But to have a ceremony or a moment like that, or where you're presented, maybe, I had this sword, we knighted them and we told them, that they got these benchmarks. Actually, I have one up here behind me. And I got the tropical storms rolling through here. If you guys, this is, I'm not trying to create.
I'm like, a lion. I'm like, where are you, David? So, right now, what is happening? It's like it was a lion. Oh, the storm.
Yeah. But anyhow, I think having some kind of ceremonies like that when you're young, that can help you call upon it, and then other men just affirming you. That's how you kind of build up that self-worth. So you can't ever get. I've never been as low as you three described. It's terrifying to me, and I hope I never see it. But I know other people do, and I can't understand it.
So I actually want to pose an interesting question around that, because it's something that I've been thinking on lately. At what age do you guys think a man, and I'm not saying full privilege, but a young boy should start being treated like a man, start given responsibility? What age does that start?
Depends on the responsibility.
Yeah.
Does it start birth? But start and is two different things. They don't have everything at any one moment, and I don't even think it's age dependent, because I don't know about you, but I know 18-year-olds that are some of the most mature people on the planet, and I know 18-year-olds that I wouldn't trust to wash my shoes. And it's like, because it's not the age, it's a lot of other things. I don't think it is a one size fits all.
But let me provide some context to that. I grew up in a small mountain town of 2,000 people, literally in the middle of nowhere. It was an hour and a half away. So we were surrounded by nothing but forest. I was 8-9 years old, and our school training was how to read the tags. Like, if you ever went in the forest and you see those tags tied to trees, you may or may not know this, but that actually has to do with or where we were anyways, with animal sightings. Like, if they were this color, that means someone saw a grizzly around there. If they were that color, you saw a wolf, right? Sort of thing. And And we were going back there at 9, 10 years old in these forests, building huts and building things. So I agree with you. An 18-year-old might not be like an 18-year-old man might not be ready for the world. But I'm also going to jump in and say, well, maybe that's because his parents didn't make him ready for the world by 18. Maybe because at 13 years old, they weren't letting them start in the decision-making process. And I'm not saying you're like, hey, get rid of your curfew or whatever. But I'm saying at 12 years old, maybe it's like, hey, time to step up, do your damn laundry. Right.
That's what I mean, right? Though. That's what I'm saying is the way you create a man or an adult, honestly, is by raising the child with increasing responsibility. You know,
right.
you keep expanding those fences and you help them learn and let them make mistakes and let them fall down and skin their knee and learn how to get up and all of those things. I actually think it's kind of related to the question that Mr. Yu was asking about how do you get there, you know, into that dark place when you haven't learned those skills, then you don't have them to fall back on. And again, that's not even that is a really complicated situation. Yeah. Wild at Art is a great book. In that I don't think there's a simple answer to it because you know, there's different people, there's different functions, there's different places in the world, but there is no magic switch. It's a continuous process. And I guess what? I'm still learning it today. You know, I mean, I'm not the same person today that I was 5 years ago. Thank the Lord, because I like me today a lot better than I liked me 5 years ago. So that's a good thing, not a bad thing. So I think it's a continuous process. I don't think it's an event.
Well, and I feel like to David's point, somewhere along that process, you end up having that journey into manhood. Like I can't say for you guys, but I was 17 when I moved out of my house. I now know 30-year-olds that still live at home, and I don't know, man. For some reason, your mom doing your own laundry makes me angry. That's just like your mom should not be doing your laundry after the age of like 13, 12. But to your point, I don't think you're wrong. I think those moments where you naturally go into manhood will develop if your parents, the people who are supposed to guide you, start treating you like a man early enough, right?
Well, and I would expand that. I don't think it's even just the parents. I think it's the community that you're in.
Yes, the school system, everything.
The school, church. You know, I was a school teacher for 16 years. What I did as a school teacher affects the kids in my classroom. You know. Church, I know David was into scouting and, that's something that can, for some young men is the positive outlook. There's the idea of creating community that lifts each other up and validates each other is valuable, but I don't think we can abdicate it to just, it's got to be the parents. Because trust me on this one. Like what David was saying about your dad. Yeah, my dad wasn't doing that. Okay.
Right.
That is not my experience with my father. And don't get me wrong. I love my dad and I learned a lot of great things from him, but I also could have learned a lot of really terrible things from him and now have had to unlearn those things, so it's not it's a community. It's all of us.
See, I think we're having the same conversation. Like
I agree.
We are.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not arguing. We are definitely talking.
No. I mean, the same conversation that we started with loneliness.
It is.
Part of the way that men learn to be mentally and emotionally mature and resilient is through purpose, is through having responsibility. Men, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It was funny what you said, because thinking back to that time in my life, my world was coming to an end. Like my whole future plans just got flushed down the toilet. That was the problem. Some of the relationships in my life were stable, but my entire plan for my future had just been flushed down the toilet, like wiped off the table. I had no idea what I was going to do for the rest of my life because my whole plan just got wiped out. Right. So at that lowest time, my direction, my purpose, my goal, my responsibility had all just disappeared. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think we start learning that as part of becoming a man is men need some responsibility to grow up. We need direction. We need responsibility. We need to start developing purpose and figure out where we fit in the world for us to be mentally and emotionally resilient. And so I think you start arming your children as soon as they're mature enough to start giving them a little more responsibility and a little more responsibility and a little more freedom, right? At 13, 14 years old, I was everywhere, man. I was one of the kids that was gone until the lights came home. My parents had no idea. I was 20 miles from home sometimes on my bike. My parents had no idea where I was, right? My parents weren't worried about it because at that age, I was pretty self-sufficient. Like I could stop and fix medical issues if I got hurt. So I was pretty self-sufficient, but it's because my parents gave me more and more.
Put myself on mute here, guys. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. That was a good one.
Ability.
I heard that one. That was yeah.
And so I think that's where a lot of that we grow in. That's how we learn to embrace purpose and grow into masculinity and manhood, is by having that room to grow a little more. So
yeah, and I agree. And there's actually something Scott touched on too. Sorry, I know I'm talking a lot, but like I get passionate about this side of it because I agree with you 100% about needing room to grow. And as a father, I'm hoping, and I say I'm hoping because I do not have a teenager yet, but I'm hoping that I err on the side of accidentally giving too much responsibility than not enough. But I don't think that's the way a lot of parents view it. That, oh, I gave her too much responsibility. Now they made a mistake. But the communities are so important. I can't remember off the life the gentleman here last week that was talking about how the church, he had a rough relationship with the church, right? And church communities are so important about this too. Like I wish I could just excuse the rude term, but just smack a bunch of people in the church upside the head and be like, you're raising my daughter along with everything else. Like my church is pretty good. Don't get me wrong, they are. But they're like, oh, can I discipline your daughter? I'm like, heck yeah. And if your discipline is stricter than mine, well, we'll get a Band-Aid. We'll figure it out, right? Because that church is a part of that community and part of that leadership. And I really seen when I see young people play a larger role in the church and given more responsibility, it's more than just their relationship with God. They're feeling like they're entering into a manhood or into an adulthood because they're given the benefit of the doubt, right? Yeah. So I agree with you on that.
Well, so that's what you're telling them that I believe you have it. You know, by giving you this responsibility, you're giving them that confidence. Here's the little I don't know if you guys can see this. It's the benchmark and it's from that Christ and the Tetons, and it says a manhood definition there is rejects passivity, accepts responsibility, leads courageously, and expects God's reward. So that was, and so everyone got this silver benchmark, you know, which is from a high point in the mountains and really significant, you know. So I think by giving them responsibility, even early, like, so I'm a grandfather. You know, when do you stop cutting up the meat for your child? You know, it's like, hey, here's the knife, here's the fork, you can do it. You know, and when they hear enough, like, you can do it, we're taking the training wheels off, you can do it, we're going to swim, you can do it. When you hear that over and over again, you're like, hey, I can do it, you know. And that's how it builds, just little by little, like Scott was saying, like from birth. And so, if you're, you know, if you got one of these helicopter moms, or I hear them called, you know, bulldozer moms now, where they just plow or snow plow, you know, they just plow the whole road, you know, so that, you know, you never have to deal with adversity or rejection or losing. You know, when everybody gets a participation trophy, well, at some point you're older, and it looks bad when you cry if you lose, but you know you're going to lose, and so you got to prepare them for that. And so, you know how you keep from losing? You go practice harder, you study, you do whatever it takes to win, and you develop that inner muscle, you know, that's just saying, I'm tougher, you know, I'm going to go and compete, you know, to win next time. And I think that's really important to instill at a very young age.
And I want to stir up a can of worms with that too, because there was an episode, I remember the very first episode that Mr. You introduced me to, I got to listen to, I wasn't on it. And I think the conversation was around showing emotions for men, right? And I do tend to agree with this, that we don't often get an opportunity to show emotions. And I think we need to. I think there's times we definitely need to, there's times we break down. Having said that, and I just noticed this is live on Facebook and I just shared it, so I'm about to get myself into a whole lot of trouble. We are not women in the way we share emotions. We don't need to just dump it out. Like when I share emotion, I want a solution, and I could cry. Like I was thinking about back in my football days when we lost a championship. Did I feel disappointed and down? Yes, but that wasn't about protecting me and making me feel better in the moment. What I needed around me was get better, go do better, and that's such an opposite reaction. And I was watching the World Juniors. I don't know if you know this, but a few people in Canada like hockey a little bit, and our World Juniors is actually a pretty big, just slightly, is a pretty big thing. And I remember Canada lost and got the silver medal because second best in Canada hockey is just a heartbreak. And these kids were ugly crying. Like I don't even mean like I get it, that stoic look off into the mountain and a tear rolls down your face. You're just like that. I'm like I feel that, but these kids were ugly crying. Like I'm just like, what the heck is going on with our generation? That's not how we should be dealing with this. That's like this self-centered, self-focused way of putting my emotion out there just for attention. Not pick yourself up and go do a better job. No wonder you came in second. I don't know. That's my rant and rave about that because
boy.
Yeah. Well, all this attributes to loneliness. You're talking about parents. You're talking about helicopter parents. My brother was telling me a story that his two boys were out on the playground. It was like King of the Castle, right? And all the kids would run up, their boys, and one would push the one off the top and be like, "Oh, I'm the king of the castle." And then this other kid got to the top, and then another boy pushed him off, and the mother came running up, yelled at all the kids and everything. And my brother just looked at me afterwards and just said, I felt bad for that kid because at that moment, he no longer had any friends.
Wow.
Because his mom didn't let him go get hurt. And even his sons, who are very, I respect my nephews, they're about bringing people in, but they're like, yeah, no, we're afraid of his mom, so we don't invite him to do things. Like, no wonder men feel lonely when you can't even play King of the Castle. Right?
It's crying shame.
All right. My rant's done on that. Sorry, guys.
That was a heat seeker, but okay. Oh wow! I don't even know where to go from here. You guys went on a merry-go-round.
The one thing I wanted to add to the very beginning when we were talking about the loneliness and the suicidal ideation and all of those things, back where we started. The one thing I want to say about the purpose thing that came up and needing a purpose is I actually was feeling suicidal because I thought that was a better way to serve my purpose. Because I was seeing myself as the provider and the person that needed to take care of my family. And I felt like I was worth more dead than alive, like literally. But the problem was I was looking at my value and my purpose in a purely transactional, monetary, worldly way. I wasn't thinking about it in a relational or spiritual or deeper than just money. I wasn't thinking about my real purpose, which isn't just to provide a paycheck. There's a few things more than that I do in the world, one or two. And so it wasn't that I didn't feel like I had a purpose or I didn't feel like, I felt like that would serve my purpose better. It's that I think my sense of purpose was confused and misdirected at that point, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Anybody else want to jump in there? Good thoughts, Scott. Thanks for sharing that, brother. Anybody else?
First of all, okay. My son, is my youngest son is 34 years old, and he was very good looking. He had a lot of girls that were like pursuing him and stuff, and this. So he grew up in the age of the social media and everything. And he said, well, Dad, the reason why people get so lonely, because he's had some friends actually commit suicide, young people. I mean, and he said that he was watching a TED talk and that like primates in a zoo, there's only like 50 monkeys, or they can't get any bigger than that. And then one male will dominate another one and he'll be cast out. And then, he'll have to create like another group. And so they started talking about Facebook and how many friends you have on Facebook. And it's like, well, you don't really have 500 friends on Facebook. And what you're doing is you're actually building like the Pink Floyd song, The Wall. You're papering over this image of yourself to the world on Facebook of only good things. Here I am, on beach retreat, or here's, all these good things. But you don't talk about your low moments like you guys have shared here. And so what's happening then is that in your head, Satan is convicting you that you're a fraud. You know, I know who you really are. You know who you really are. That Facebook, and as that happens, they get more and more isolated, and they drift farther and farther into this inner dark world of suicidal thoughts and stuff. And he was explaining this to me because he'd lost these friends, and I was just like, oh, it's horrible, but it's true.
Mhm.
If you have this false image, and then you're kind of ready, okay, I don't want to maintain that anymore. I want to kind of tear that down and be genuine. But I built it, so I'm kind of lied, or I've misrepresented myself. So how can I go and correct that? How do I? So I have to withdraw deeper, and that was very insightful to me. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, see, we're jumping into a generational argument right here, or I should say discussion, not really argument. Is there is the loneliness that we're initially talking about, which most men throughout history have dealt with. Like it's not a new thing. Men have always struggled with feeling lonely, and part of it goes back to what was said earlier with Scott talking about, he's more useful dead than alive. I literally had a friend, a coworker, take out a life insurance policy on himself that would pay out at a suicide because he saw his life insurance policy and what he could give his daughter, since his wife and him were divorced. He was more valuable to her dead, and he actually planned for it.
Mhm.
Right. And there are a lot of men who are on that row. But now what you're getting into with this is actually a more recent issue for millennials and younger predominantly, because Instagram and social media and Facebook has really sped up this concept of comparison that we didn't have the option of, right? Let's face it. Nate, how old are you?
How old am I? 42.
Okay. So I'm guessing the youngest guy on here.
I know I look like I'm 26, so I appreciate that.
But right,
Here, brother.
all of us at 40 and older, it's really like I'm 46. Most of us didn't grow up in the shadow of constant bombardment of social media. Right. We grew up without that. We started without the phones, without the cell phones, and without all our problems from school. Like we walked away from school and the bully stayed at school. Right. You might have a neighborhood bully, but most of the time the bully stayed at school. Right. And you went back to your safe area, your neighborhood or whatever, where you were pretty cool. This whole ability for it to follow you home and for people to barrage you with lies about themselves didn't exist 25 years ago. Like I will go back as far as, say pre-mid 90s, like that wasn't even a possibility. So 30 years, sorry.
No, I feel what we're about now.
Right. It just wasn't humanly possible. We didn't have devices. We didn't have half the social media platforms didn't exist then. And so we could escape from that. And so now we're dealing with an epidemic of loneliness that is affecting our younger generations before they even get to dealing with the loneliness that you start to feel 30 plus as men.
Yep.
Right. So now we're actually attacking two different epidemics that are plaguing men.
And I really want to add on to that because I think about the social media side a lot, and as Mr. You and I met, I think about the gaming world and everything else a lot. There's also this other thing that ends up happening. We go back to the effort or to the purpose or to the meaning. Well, Facebook also provides friends without meaning. It's no longer about actually going and building a relationship. It's just about, hey, I get my likes, and so people liked my thing, so clearly they like me, right? Well, that's a friendship without effort. I was thinking about, man, I'm so thankful I don't have to date today. Like I will do anything my wife wants just so I never have to date. Forget anything else. I just never want to date in today's world because it's like in a respectful way, and I want to be very clear when I say this, in a respectful way, men love the pursuit. Like there's something about going to a bar and trying to charm her and be that good guy. And again, respectfully, men, but in a very respectful way, where now it's just swipe left, swipe right. There's no pursuit for sex at the end of the day. It's just, oh, I swiped right, we ended up hooking up, and now we watch Netflix and chilled. And then they wonder why they go home so lonely and why they don't have meaningful relationships. Like when you meet somebody through a friend, You actually put effort and you put the journey, you put the hunt in, the chase, whatever case may be. And I love the phrase that women are really the truthful ones. They're the ones who choose the partners, not men. You just look at a bar at the end of the night. Men don't choose their partners. Women choose you. And this is what makes the hunt so fun, right? And so exciting is you want to be chosen. Everything is this instant gratification that is taking away so much meaning and purpose that we can't, like, to that epidemic you're talking about. This is like, no wonder you feel crappy before real life actually hits, before the responsibility of fatherhood. Or maybe that's why you don't want to become a father, because you've never accomplished anything worthwhile, because every time you wanted to date, you just went on Tinder, or anytime you needed a friend, you just went on Facebook for the likes.
Oh, wait, if we're kicking Facebook, I gotta get my shot in here. I actually hold Facebook personally responsible for the complete destruction of the concept of friends. Everybody else had followers, had people you knew. Facebook had the nerve to call them friends. And so now we have a bunch of people growing up actually believing friends are these weird people you've never actually met on the other end of the internet who like your crap, and not knowing what an actual friend is. And it's enabling kids who are not extroverted. It's enabling kids who struggle to make friends to feel like they're filling that void, which is just, it's a cheap sugar rush is all it is a dopamine hit. But they're not actually building friends, but it lets them pretend they're building friends, lets them feel better for the moment, but they don't understand they're just layering the problem. But because Facebook went out of their way to call it friends, I have a deep hatred of Facebook, even though I'm on it. I'm only on it for business. I didn't have a Facebook account until I started my business.
Same here.
But I have a deep hatred for Facebook, particularly because I have people I know who are so lonely, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I got like 300 Facebook friends." Shut up! They're not friends. When was the last time you went and had a beer with them? Have you had dinner with any of them this week? Did they come over to your place? You don't have friends. You have a bunch of idiots on the internet going and scrolling.
Now I know why he hasn't accepted my friend request.
I see you feeling pretty lonely about it.
You're not an idiot. That could work in your favor, Scott. Yeah, we could go there, but I don't even know where to go after that one, because I've been trying to get off of that for I don't know how many years it's been now. I can't seem to escape it yet, but I'm still trying to find an exit.
The good side to the internet, and I always kind of try to play devil's advocate a little bit, is there are ways that people have used it to actually find and connect to people in more authentic ways. The problem is it's so easy to do it inauthentically, and people take the easy way. So it's going back to like the networking room that you were talking about. It's easy to sit in the room and just pass business cards and have a surface level conversation and move on to the next thing. It's hard to actually go, no, really, I want to get to know you. Tell me more about who you are. Tell me more about what you're doing. Tell me more about what you mean. People almost don't trust that, because it's like, what are you after?
In the Facebook chat, you're not going to trust that.
You must want something, you're scamming me. What are you trying to do?
You can't do it out there.
Well, you're hamstringing. You're hamstringing it, because men can already stand around a barbecue grill with 20 other guys and talk for 3 hours in community barbecue.
Say nothing.
Never know each other, or even know the guys' names that you were standing there with.
Right.
My wife asked me the other day. I stopped. I have one of the guys that I know who owns a business here in town that I do some business with. He does great work, and we click well, right? And so, like, I went to go pick up something, but I was there for like 30 minutes because we just started chatting. She's like, "Well, what's his name?" I was like, "I don't know." You can see. I just did a bunch of business with him and talked to him for 40 minutes. But I have no idea.
What real thing, guy.
Did you talk to him about the fact that him and Susie are going through a divorce? Who's Susie? What are you talking about?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You know what it brings to mind for me is that movie, The Breakfast Club. Have y'all seen the movie The Breakfast Club? So you got all these kids.
You're dating yourself, David.
That don't really well, but it's the concept. So they're in a study hall, and they have to all go in on a Saturday. You got the cool kid, the popular kids.
It's detention.
And I think it's the first movie that was kind of almost in real time. So it's a 2-hour movie, and it's about 2 hours in study hall. But it's how they end up making friends. How they began to overcome, the differences that they had, because they're all in here in a common adversary, if you will, which is what is used in the military, with a drill instructor, or, hazing. When you have a common adversary, then you can kind of overlook the differences, the smaller differences that you have. It's like, we're going to band together and we're going to overcome, this adversary. And I think putting people in those circumstances isn't necessarily a bad thing. Just my experience.
It's funny you say that. I was thinking about so my confession is I'm still I'm not going to say professional gamer because I don't get paid, but I do a lot of high-end competing gaming with friends. And it just occurred to me the other day that there's a lot of people in my raid team who I really don't like, but I would do anything for. Like, if we weren't a raid team, if we weren't a team trying to accomplish this goal, I'd probably never speak to them. They'd probably be the kind of person I wouldn't go have a beer with or anything. But now, because we're a part of this, trying to get together and accomplish this goal, and we have for so long, I really actually want to meet them, and I really want to connect with them. And I think as much as I do it, I think gaming's a poor way to fulfill that need. But that's the need I think that needs to come back from like sports. We need to come back with competitive sports for guys, especially. I think
you belong. You feel like you belong somewhere. Yeah.
Like there was guys on my football team when I was in high school who, prior to me playing football, made fun of me, and I'm sure me playing football didn't make them like me. But now all of a sudden they stood up for me. They wouldn't talk to me outside of football, but they would respect me to a degree, right? So we need to bring that back.
There's more thunder.
Yeah.
Yes.
The whole male friendship thing, I think we talked about it on previous shows. It's always gotten very, very deep for us. And I know that with the time we have left, this could be too deep a conversation to start to breach, but just want to get you guys' thoughts, because this is different. You change, you evolve. There's new people on stage with us tonight. What's your view of male friendships? Are they mainly surface level for you? Do you feel like they represent the start of real community for you, or something in between, or none of the above? Where you at as it pertains to male friendships? And I'll let you guys talk. Go ahead.
I'll go, because I'm blessed with many, many male friendships, and with 40-year friendships. I was in a fraternity, and I helped found it. And, like, for example, we're trying to go to all the away SEC venues together. There's 4 of us, that are going to go to the OU A&M game, and so I'm just blessed to have those long relationships. But that's that brotherhood, and when I was in scouting, as Scott mentioned, we had this sub organization called Order of the Arrow, if anybody knew about, and it was called the Brotherhood of Cheerful Service. And so there was a lot we had to do it's called your ordeal ceremony. You had to go spend the night without a tent, in the middle of the wilderness and stuff. But when you have those friendships, life is a team sport. And I have deep relationships because I'm willing to trust first, so I'm willing to share, I'm willing to be vulnerable, I'm willing to be judged, if that's what, I'm not so overly concerned about what others think of me that I'm going to be so careful. But then you can build relationships faster, and that really helped me in my sales career to be very successful, because I could build relationships quickly. So I think male friendships, because look, we get animated, my wife doesn't like it if I start moving my hands a lot and I raise my voice because I'm just talking about something I have, or I react to things, just on the news, you're shouting at the TV about politics or something. And so I need to be able to go off somewhere and just vent, to another guy and go, man, and then you kind of get that off your chest, and then you can come home, and then you can be more attentive and, polite and everything with your wife. But I am richly blessed, and I count those blessings every day. And I work at building new friendships all the time, because I was an Air Force brat too. And when you move around, you don't grow up with the same people around. You're living in Germany, and then there's no family near you, and so the other people are the other Air Force families. And then everybody in the Air Force knows they're going to be moving around, so they're more welcoming. They're like, hey, we're not going to force you to break through and try to get into this clique. Those are my thoughts on it. Really, really important.
That's
Essential.
awesome, man. No, that's awesome. That's the standard, man. It ain't perfect. It's not cool. It's dirty. It's grimy sometimes. But you say, you know what? I'm open to be transparent. I'm open to embrace the idea of, adding my brick to this building. I respect that, man. No, thank you for sharing that. That's good stuff. Nothing to be tentative or ashamed of. That's great stuff, man. Thank you for sharing that, David. Anybody else?
I look at friendship in a very weird way, I think.
Okay.
I have friends, and I try to be a friend that fulfills different roles. Like, I have some friends who I really love watching sports with, but there's not a chance in hell I'd ever ask them for relationship advice. And then I have other friends who I would ask relationship advice with, but I'd probably never watch a game with them just because it's not their thing. And I have other ones for business, and I have other ones for whatever it is. And for me, just compartmentalizing friends made it a lot easier, because I found I don't like small talk, because I like to go deep on pretty much every conversation. Like, I'm not the guy who lives at the surface. If we're going to do that, sure, we'll do it for 5 minutes, but I don't have the time of day to spend all night in that environment. And so maybe it makes me a bad friend to some people. I try to be a good friend. But I find friends have different roles, and that's what I try to fulfill in other friends. Like, by myself, when I think about being a friend, I want to be the person that people can rely on all the time. I want to be the person that you can call if you need help. I want to be the person there to support you, to let you dream big, to let you live big. But I think, Mr. You said earlier, I'm not going to be the friend that listens to you complain without problem solving. Like, I have a one complaint rule. If you complain to me once about it, great, I'll listen. But after that, if you don't solve it, then I don't want to hear it. Right? I just don't have the time. So my friend segment's kind of weird for that. I have people I hang out with, or people that I rely on for business advice or relationship advice, but it's definitely not all in one person. It's mixed around. So,
well, that makes sense. I mean, if you just listen to people complain, you're just a co-conspirator. So something ever breaks off, it's going to come back to you. So you knew what this guy was getting ready to do. You didn't say anything. So no, I don't blame you for that.
Then words like premeditation start entering the conversation, and that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. And I feel like that guy that comes up to you and says, "Listen, I've been divorced 5 times. Let me tell you how this works." I just feel like that is not something that builds the good experience you're looking for.
Probably not the guy you want advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who his friendship base is, but it probably wouldn't be any of us.
Well, you definitely don't want relationship advice from him. That's for sure. I tend to have a few very, very close, deep friends, and then but not a ton of friends. And then I have people that I'm friendly with, not friends, acquaintances, and I know their name and I can greet them and we can engage, but I'm probably not going to go into a deep 2-hour conversation with. But I have a handful of male friends that are they're the ones that, if we were having that conversation that Mr. You and I were just joking about, they're the ones I would call, because if I need bail money at 2 a.m, I'm calling one of them.
Give me a shovel. I got a situation. Bring a shovel.
Bring a shovel. Yeah, I got a situation. Bring a shovel and don't ask any questions. Yeah, they come for that. That
the white van with no windows with some rope.
But it's just a handful of them, and that's and in part that's just because that's all I want, I guess, in a way. I don't need to have a big collection of people. But again, not that that's wrong or bad. It's just not my thing, if that makes sense.
It does. Anybody else?
I'm a lot like Scott. I keep a lot of my male relationships fairly surface. Like we get along and we talk, and like I can have fun with them, but I've never spent time with a lot of guys at all. Like my whole life, I've never kept a lot of male friends. I have a handful of them that, I don't know if you guys saw the movie The Town. There's a great quote comes out of it. One guy's talking to another. He says, "I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask about it again, and we're going to hurt a lot of people." And the other guy goes,
"When do we leave?
Your car or mine?"
Yeah.
I've got a handful of friends that fall into that category. That we can go years without talking. I can still make that phone call, right? And that's a real tight circle. And there are also some really dangerous people. But I do the same thing for them, right? I love those guys. It doesn't matter if we haven't talked in 3 years. I get that phone call, I'm on the road. But most of my male relationships, I've always kept fairly light. I've always gotten along better with women. Like my friend group has always had more women around me than guys. So,
wow. This is not an easy discussion for a lot of reasons. I think my standards for friendship are high. They're not unattainable, but they're high. I guess it's because I kind of expect, I could be wrong. I could be about to get roasted for saying this in front of everybody, but I kind of want friends to do what I'm willing to do. I've literally given the shirt off my back and the shoes off my feet to people. Sometimes strangers, people who I didn't even know, but they were in greater need than I was, and I gave it. I expect my friends to kind of care on that level. If you know me, I'm in trouble. Don't leave me hanging in the time of need, because I wouldn't leave you hanging in the time of need. I'd be there for you. I come right to you. I kind of expect that from everybody. I've heard people who kind of intimate, you know what, it's the wrong way to look at it. You shouldn't expect that. I'm like, so what am I supposed to do then? Should I look for the lowest bar possible and shoot for that? I don't know what to do. So all I know how to do is do what I'm willing to do. If I'm willing to go all out for the guy on the bridge, people who want to be considered my friends and I want to consider my friends, I'm expecting them to do the same thing. That's why we even here doing this right now. That's what this whole show is all about. One of the main parts of our mission statement, if you will, is that every day you pass by 3 to 5 people probably. And before you got on this show, you probably didn't touch them or say a word to them. You kept on going. That person, one of those guys in that 3 to 5 person group, could be the guy on the bridge. You stick your hand out, let them know, you know what? We're fellow humans on this earth, and we're going to be here together for a while. It wouldn't hurt me to find out how you're doing. Or just be an ear for you for a few minutes. It wouldn't hurt. So that's the whole point of all this stuff. So to me, that's my short answer on the whole friendship thing. That's how I view it. Is that a good thing? You guys think that's a good bar? Is it too high? I'm open to suggestions.
I think it's okay to say what you expect, to say what you want, what you need, and then say, and I'm willing to be here for you for that. It's risky, to talk to another man and say, this is what I need from you, but it's okay to, I do a lot of like backpacking, and I had a group of guys that were all 14, 15 years older than me because they were my customers. And, it's just interesting when you're sitting around a campfire. And, at first, you're talking about how dehydrated food makes you fart a lot or something, and it's real light and it's just kind of humorous. But then, as it gets darker, you can just kind of barely make out one another's face. And then the subject gets a little bit more serious. We start talking about our heart wounds and about disappointments and then, when it's really dark and all you can see is like the cherry from his cigar. And it's like you're protected by this cloak of darkness. We get into deep, serious conversations. One was a Vietnam vet, and he had lost soldiers in combat due to some decisions that he made, and he's still struggling with that mightily. But that opportunity to walk in sacred ground with other people is rare. And man, when someone trusts you enough, you need to really esteem that and value and say thank you for trusting me and for being willing, to share at that level, and then maybe reciprocate. Not all of us have something like that, but those people are the guys you call at 3 and say, bring a shovel.
Yeah, man. All right. Any closing thoughts on the idea of loneliness? Honestly, I don't know. I know it's in the title, and people may use that to search or to share, or whatever, and promote. That's fine, but I don't know if we can explain the whole loneliness thing. I don't know if we can. Maybe you guys are better at it than I am, but I don't even know if I have an answer. If somebody asks me, so what's the loneliness that men can't explain? I don't know. So why are you asking me?
Listen to the title. We can't explain it.
Yeah, I don't know if
you
we
just
solved
said that.
Today. Yeah, I know it. I don't know if we solved that today at all. But any final thoughts on the idea of this, and or anything else that maybe just came to mind while we were talking, and once you guys go around the horn,
I
so
just
to speak,
want to say that for men out there that are feeling lonely, realize, you're not actually alone in that feeling either.
Yes.
That I think it's normal, it's natural. That doesn't make it good, but it's normal. It's something that a lot of men go through. I think all of us at some level at some point in our life, and just reach out to one man, reach out to one connection, reach out to one person, and open up. And I think you'd be surprised at how often you'll get that echo of, yeah, me too, brother, me too.
Yeah, that's good, man. Anybody else?
My only encouragement to anybody feeling lonely, any men out there feeling lonely or just feeling lost, it sounds easier said than done. Find purpose and just don't let someone else tell you not to follow it or pursue it. And if people are telling you not to pursue a purpose because they think it's silly or stupid, then you got the wrong friends. Purpose makes all the difference in the world. And do your damn laundry. Don't let your mom do it.
I would say,
why I use that as a title. It's never going to happen.
Hey, it's better than let it go, right?
Yeah, by country mile. Yeah. Go ahead, David. Sorry.
Well, on my podcast is called Wrestling with the Inner Man, and my number one most downloaded episode is Wrestling with Feeling Worthless. And I think that's really at the crux of a lot of loneliness, is that you feel worthless or you feel unworthy because of guilt. And I would say that probably the best medicine for any of us experiencing loneliness is to know that you were created as a new creation in Christ. If you accept him as your Lord and Savior, you don't have to feel crappy about, whatever you've done or how you don't feel worthy. You don't feel like you deserve to have good friends. And so you want to affirm those people, but you got to learn how to forgive yourself. And I think there's a lot of self-condemnation, and that's why men go to the cave and they just want to feel sorry for. It's easy to have a big pity party, but you got to go pull those friends out of the cave and say, look, man, you're an image bearer of God just like me. And that alone gives you tremendous value. And if you accept Christ, you're a new creation. And let's get over the pity parties, forgive yourself, and let's pick up your mat and walk.
Good stuff, David. Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Ain't but one person left. Come on, man.
I can see the wheels turning there. Come on, Brent.
Well, I just don't know if I have anything that brief. One of the most important things we did.
It's not brief for me. It's brief for Scott. Scott got to go. You got time. Speak.
One of the most important things we did not tackle in this whole conversation about men feeling loneliness is, and I'm sure we'll have some arguments in the comments later, men need some form of faith. It may not be Christianity or traditional faith as you're thinking about church, right? And we can make jokes about the Mandalorian, weapons are part of my religion, right? But men need a faith in something that is larger than them. It's not enough to have purpose. It's not enough to have direction. Men critically need a faith in something, a bigger concept, a deeper meaning to life than themselves to deal with loneliness. Mm-hmm. And, whether that's a particular church or religious belief, or that's a faith in, in the military, I knew a lot of guys the faith was in, hey, we were there to serve our country, right? It was a bigger calling. Men need some sort of faith for them to actually not get trapped by loneliness. And I feel like we could unpack that for a long time, but I'll leave that there.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we can take to another level. Well, I don't know if you guys that have been watching and listening or will watch on the replay are dealing with loneliness, but I really hope, I think we all share this sentiment that we hope you have at least one person that you can reach out to and say, hey, yeah, a little time, bend your ear a little bit and just kind of get away from this stuff and just spend some time doing something different and love to have you just to connect with. So hope you guys have that out there, man, because it's critical. You heard what these guys were talking about all night. It's a big deal. But thanks again for watching the Men's Roundtable Series podcast, The Loneliness Men Don't Know How to Explain. Not sure we explained it either, but let you guys.